Hey, what's up, everyone? I've been getting a few requests as to how I did Mr. Cube and the whole cartoon animating hand-drawn look. So I'm going to break down that project file, and I'm also going to tell you guys about a couple new techniques that I've learned since then. So my first step was to be in Cinema, and just as a reference, I needed to build this in here because I'm not good at going frame by frame, not knowing what the end result's going to look like. So I just made sweeped objects, splines, and circles, and they just made these little tubes. That's it. Colors just for me to figure out what's what. Rendered it out. Cube is just there for reference. Blah, blah, blah. That's it. I gave you guys this file if you want it. That's it. So after I have this rendered out, I go into After Effects. And I have this as its little, reference image rendered out. Ooh, that's really not that pretty. So that's cool because we're going to hand animate this. So I went frame by frame and made a shape layer, and each shape has at least one path in it. And I went and just keyframed all that. And the beautiful thing is your brain will figure out in a 2D image, fill in the gaps between stuff so it doesn't need to be perfect. And it kind of lends to the style that it's not perfect. This method was the first way I did it, and I don't think it's the most efficient, but if you guys are comfortable in After Effects and you don't want to use anything else, by all means go for it. It can get a little hairy once you get more complex shapes. This project doesn't have too many complex shapes. So this project is actually fine for this, but I mean there's a lot of keyframes and you may not want to do that. So basically all I have on this is just a shape with its little highlight, and as you can see on the reference image, not all of it is lined up exactly to this original tube. But that's cool, that's fine, because as you can see the blue one is offset from this, and really when I made the reference I just made them all the same time just for no keyframes everywhere. And when I bring it into After Effects, I can offset it later. So that's what I did. And as you can see, the end is not pointy, so I just, kind of guessed it. So on the cubes, it's just a path, just a shape, with a path. And the only thing unique about it really is the highlight section, and that makes it actually look like a cube. Otherwise, it's just this, looking rectangle shape or whatever. So now it looks like a cube, and all that is just animating from, small to just growing up a little bit. The splashes are just 3 paths. As you can see, I have a fix right here. I don't remember what that was for, but I needed it. So the splashes are just 3 paths, start out small and just get bigger and then smaller. That's it. It's all this is super basic stuff. As you can see, all these things come up. When you scrub frame by frame, you'll kind of realize that this stuff is easy. It's time consuming, but it's easy. Shadow is, just builds up from right there, from lower, and just goes up. Wiggle path is a little trick I found recently that you can go into the shape path, and let me find the cube. And so you just have a shape selected, go to add, wiggle path, and you have some variables right here. Just change those up. Mine's at 3.5, and it just it changes the look of it. This is the lower one that it's changing right here, and you see it's that's not what I was looking for. So 3.5 was what I found worked on this one. That's it. And same thing goes with the text, by the way. The text was a little trick. So if I type out some text right here, like cube, I can go to layer, create shapes from text. Okay, so now it hides the text layer. I have 4 paths, that's each individual letter. Super awesome. So now I can go into the path, hit add, wiggle path. Now I have my variables right here. What did I say? Like 3, 5. So, boom. That's seriously it. And this type is, you know, kind of looks more like pencil, so it lends itself well to that. And to animate it on, all I did was just used, oh man. Okay. Animated on, all I did was simple, ugly masking. But whatever, just went frame by frame and did that. I had someone ask me why I didn't just use the stroke, and that was because I had more control over this, since I wanted this to go at different times, and you just kind of lose some control with what is it, brush stroke or something like that? Yeah, generate stroke, to where you can, you know, reveal on an image or something like that, but you kind of lose some control. So I just did the old-fashioned way and just masked it. What I think is the last thing I have to say about this is the paperish texture, you can see very faintly, is actually just using fractal noise. It's super low opacity. Like, you can see what it's doing when I bump it up just a little bit. The evolution goes from 0 to 30 in 5 seconds. So no frame has a chance to really smoothly evolve into something else. So it, you know, it makes it kind of that jittery, jumpy, low opacity. I just had it rocky. I've made the scale really high, and you know, this is not set in stone stuff. This is like, you play with it, whatever looks good. Just added noise on top to give it a little more texture, and I really think that's it as far as this goes. I attached all the sound effects with it, and with the sound effects I got from freesound.org. Really awesome site, all free stuff. Most all of it is in WAV format too, so sweet. I think that's it. Next thing I'm going to get into is how to actually, the other methods of going through this. So if all you were looking for was the breakdown of this, then hope you had fun. But the next is going more in depth on my current methods of doing this. So now we're going to be using Photoshop Extended, and it has to be extended because of the video support. So I'm going to grab a video, bring it in here, and as you can see, I can go frame by frame, and I can actually paint on this. Now the problem is I'm actually painting on the video layer. So to get around that, let me undo that. There we go. To get around that, you want to go to Layer, New, Blank Video Layer. Okay, so now I can draw on this and it's not affecting the bottom layer, so I can export that out separately. So the way I would do everything was I would use the pen tool, and because you get a little, I mean, you get more control. I'm more comfortable with the pen tool, you know, with the Bezier curves and all that. And then you have, not showing up, paths. There we go. So now I have my path over here, and basically what I do, doesn't matter what color, because you can always change that in After Effects, is I do fill path, or just hit this button down here. It fills it to your top color. So now I can go to the next frame, but problem is I still have this path right here, and it won't go away unless I make a new one, but then you get, you know, all these paths in the way. So the best way I found out how to work with this is I go back to the frame I had before, because there's no onion skinning or anything, so you can't see what the frame was before. So I just draw on the frame that I had currently, but I delete the path. So I want this to be a little bit forward. Boom. Now I go to my next frame, fill path, and then just repeat the process. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. I'm not going to sit here and do this. You guys are smart guys and gals. You can figure this out. But basically that's it. That's pretty rough, but that's it. Okay. And to export it, you turn that off, turn that bottom layer off, and you can go to export, render video, and you can say QuickTime. I wouldn't recommend that, but you can do it if you want to. But I do image sequence. You can make it a Photoshop, PNG, or whatever you want. You can select what frames you want, all frames starting at this, whatever. You can do whatever you want, and then just bring it into After Effects and do your thing there. And while I was writing down my notes as to what to do in this tutorial, I actually found another way that some of you may like better. So I'm going to take the same video. I'm going to not save that. Take the same video, but I'm going to go to import video frames to layers. So I'm just going to import the same video. What was it? Dino 1. Super. So we'll go beginning to end. Sure. Super. All right. So now we have each frame as a layer. Now, I haven't actually done this, but I think I might like this better. So you can do the same thing we did before, but the cool thing about this is when I, make my path, delete it, I can go to the next frame, and I can just make the opacity 50, and that's pretty much like onion skinning, and you can, see what you did before without having to go back a frame. So that's pretty nice, if you ask me. So I might do it this way, and you export it same exact way. I tested it out, it works. Render video does the same thing. It looks at all these layers as frames, and pretty awesome. Something that I would recommend is if you're not very good at drawing or figuring out like I am that things need to go frame by frame, then I actually emailed a link to myself. You can just go on YouTube and find a slow motion of a water drop or something like that. If that's what you're going for, just download the video from KeepVid or something like that, and you can bring that into After Effects or Photoshop and just copy each path. That way you're not, that's actually what water does. Another way to do this is in Flash, and those of you that know Flash will probably use this, but I don't know Flash too well, so I'm really not going to teach it. But I know that if you want to bring a video in, you have to convert it to FLV for it to work in the timeline, and then you would just basically do the same thing you do in Photoshop. You can export a image sequence from Flash as well, and Flash is more of a vector base, so it's probably the better bet. Here's another example of something using I used the Photoshop method on this one, and I just hand drew these guys coming in and this smoke trail, it looks like cartoon smoke or something like that, but it kind of blends in with the logo pretty well, and this flame and explosion coming out, that's pretty much it for that one. That's the new technique. And I could tell a huge difference in the workflow, and I think the end result looks a lot better. So if it's up to me, I would use the Photoshop method, but you guys can use After Effects, whatever you want.